Parental discretion advised. Vulgar use of language. Welcome to another edition of Up and In It. I'm your host, Adrian Babashoff, and if you're new here, welcome as well. And if you're wondering what the show is about, it's entirely dedicated to creating an alternative lifestyle design that improves quality of life for both people and for the planet, exploring alternatives to the daily grind through liberation and independence, moving you from surviving to thriving and living life raw, the way you want to, and not being hungry, because today's about food. I saw this coming a couple days ago, about a week ago actually. It's not necessarily about meat, but there's a shortage of meat right now, and the president signed a thing saying let's keep the meat houses open, but they're having to close due to COVID-19, and a lot of shaky stuff. And I think that we need to improve our lives by having a better food supply and thinking outside the box. I think our current systems have failed us. And it's clearly apparent. We're reliant on the system. We're reliant on pickup trucks, on semi trucks to bring, and trains to bring us food, and airplanes and boats. And if that ceases to stop, which it very well could one day, we're fucked. I need to say too, this is episode 101. Yesterday was 100. Yay! Today's April 1st for me, recording this show. And let's get into it, guys. So I want to talk about how it wasn't so long ago that most of us, actually it was very uncommon. I'm going to say that again, very uncommon to not have a garden. Somebody didn't have a garden, like, look at fucking Bill and Nancy. The hell's the matter with them? What, do you lost your fucking marbles? You know, grow some turnips, some carrots and shit. You know, or having a front lawn. But it was very common in the 1930s that a lot of people were gardening, and I think a lot of people had to. And I mean, my grandparents, both sides, they still had gardens till the day they fucking died. And I think that's the pendulum, that's the swing, that's where we're heading back again, is towards things such as growing our own food. And I know a lot of you think that it's not possible. I am actually leaving my spin farm area, meaning that I am farming somebody else's land. And take a look out on YouTube or Instagram. I may be posting some videos of the work I'm doing there. I'm setting up an entire greenhouse to do just that, to grow my own food and to think outside the box. It's an invention of mine that I made, and I don't want to say too much about it and use this up because let's stay relevant to the subject matter, but thinking outside the box. I'm looking to sell possibly some of my food to the surrounding neighborhoods, a little farm stand, maybe make some money off YouTube, whatever it is, maybe start a little gardener's club, just enough to pay for my seeds and my fertilizers and the water and everything like that. So I'm actually hoping to grow food for free, and that's the kind of mentality I want you guys to get into today. So yeah, whether if you're in an apartment or something, no matter where you're at, there's a lot of people, guys, that don't know the first thing of how to even pick up a shovel. And I did a whole podcast, I believe, on the spin farming already. If not, you guys ask me questions, give me some subject matter, and I'll make a podcast about it. But no matter where you're at, there's always places to spin farm, to grow a garden. And even if you don't have to, if you live out in an apartment or something, you got a balcony, you can do container gardening. You can grow stuff out of 5-gallon buckets. There's plenty, and they're self-watering. There's plenty of YouTube videos on there. You basically get 2 buckets to make one grow container, and you'll drill holes in the bottom of one, and it's basically called a wicking or a sip bed, and it'll automatically water it for you. You never have to even think. You can just go to work and you can just harvest, unless you get to the biodegradable container gardening that I got going on. But again, I don't want to spoil too much. So yeah, there's all kinds of ways. You guys can grow herbs, you can grow all kinds of different things. I want to move on to fermented foods. I think there's a lot of possibility for foods that we're not thinking about beyond farming and beyond growing it ourselves. There's a lot of things that we can do. I mean, I've got a really exciting, let's just go ahead and jump to that one there, because since we were talking about spin farming. Aftermarket. I'm going to mention this a couple times, and that means after the market is over, like the farmers market or something, or the CSAs, or call your local farmers. And when they got stuff that's getting ready to turn, usually these guys just dump it in their compost, but you can come by and pick it up for pennies on the pound. And what you can do is you can ferment things like that. You can freeze, you can do all kinds of, there's different ways. You can dehydrate. So one way to get stuff without even growing is go to your farmers towards the end of the season especially, and you can pick up all kinds of shit. And fermenters, guys, there's fermented foods. There's tons of them. There's kiefers, there's yogurts, there's sauerkraut. There's one of my favorite is kimchi. These things they last for a long time. I've had my kimchi for about 3 years now, and I tell you guys, it gets better with age. It actually tastes a hell of a lot better. And you'll know on fermented foods when it's bad. All foods stink pretty much, even fermented foods. You'll know when it's not safe to eat. But there's all kinds of fermented stuff that you can make, and it's very easy, and all you need is a countertop, and there's so much you can do. As I said, a lot of them do need refrigeration, like kimchi. Sauerkraut, I believe sauerkraut does as well, but there are, I believe, a couple fermented things that you can do that can actually, that don't need refrigeration. That's an actually cool spot. And the thing about fermenting foods is you need to have an average temperature. That's what's nice, is it's designed really to be inside of a house. Like 70 to 85 degrees is optimal. When it starts dropping below 60 or getting up hotter, it messes with the fermentation and kind of screws things up. So if you're in an apartment, you have the perfect setting for that. Next on my list is sprouts. I don't remember a lot about doing it, other than you can sprout just about any seeds. And sprouts means that you got those mung bean sprouts, I think they're called. There's all kinds that you can do. Sprouted wheat. I mean, it's endless. I don't want to you can make a whole show about it. But from what I remember is they got a mason jar, and they got these little lids, these plastic lids that screw on. They got holes in them. They got different size screens, so you can dump out for when you're doing rinses. So basically, it's very simple. You just put a bunch of seeds, you wash them like wheat. You put it inside of a mason jar with the screened top on it to keep the bugs out. And then you pour the water out and you keep them rinsed so it doesn't get all funky. I believe in like 3-4 days, you already got, when they start to sprout, they're full of sugar, and they got tons of vitamins and minerals in them, and you just pick them up and eat them. You can throw them in salads, all kinds of different things. So just because you don't have a farm, even if you're on the road, I think traveling, you can do sprouts. Microgreens is another one, and this is the same thing. Whether I would say if you're traveling, that'd make it kind of rough, but in an apartment or something, you don't really need much light at all. And I'll tell you what, my absolute favorite microgreens are sunflower microgreens. And I also heard, I don't have the experience on this, but I also hear that cilantro microgreens have 10 times the flavor of regular cilantro. So for those of you who don't know what microgreens are, it's basically a small little flat that's roughly about 12 inches by about 18, let's just say 12 by 2. You've seen them before. It's where they propagate plants, but instead of propagating plants, you line the whole entire thing with about an inch and a half of soil. It could be something very simple like peat moss and vermiculite, and you dump a bunch of seeds in there, you cover them up, and you keep watering them. You got to spritz them and put a paper towel over them. So I'd say once in the morning, probably once in the evening, but that's about it. And then you just leave them close to where there's just remotely any type of light. And within like 10 to 12 days, I believe it is, you've got a whole entire giant tray of microgreens. I'm not sure about the nutritional value. Some people say that they're full of nutrition, but I don't know. I think a lot of stuff needs some nutritional stuff. In the soil, it needs vitamins and minerals. And if you're growing something without vitamins and minerals, you might not have that many vitamins and minerals in your plants. Another trick, what I've heard, but I haven't done too, is if you're going to do wheatgrass in microgreens, that's when you blend it all up and you drink the juice. That stuff, you got to watch out, man. Start out low. That shit'll hurt your stomach. But what I heard is if you use ocean water on that stuff, you'll have the sweetest wheatgrass you've ever tasted. For some reason, I haven't tried it, but it sounds interesting. Bread machines is another one to get through this lockdown. You don't have to do shit, guys, and it's pennies on the dollar. I'm not sure, but I think that you can grow. You can bake a loaf of bread for probably like 25 cents worth of ingredients, maybe 50 cents, depending on what type of bread you're doing. But in this whole for food security and survival for being prepped, I don't see a better way than having a stock ton, a bunch of flour, whole wheat flour, white unbleached flour, organic flour. There's all banana flour, coconut flour, almond flour, all kinds of different things that you can utilize for making breads and muffins. And the bread machines that are out there, guys, you literally can just dump them in. I don't have experience, but a friend of mine was doing this, and a client. You just add like a cup of water, it has all the ingredients, you stick it in the machine, it mixes everything for you, it lets it rise, it lets it settle. You don't do shit. You just add the ingredients and walk away, and it cooks it for you. Literally, before you go to bed, you can wake up in the morning with a fresh loaf of bread. I think people who are hurting in this COVID-19 thing right now for getting a job and stuff, I'll tell you what, you start baking some bread, and I'll tell you, you're gonna have that whole apartment complex or wherever you're at sniffing that stuff, and it will make your stomach just growl. Even though you're not hungry, you will be hungry. So bread machines, I think are a definitely good tool. I said about the yogurts and kiefers. Another way to automate your yogurt making, obviously, is well, not obviously, but I've just found out, is a Instapot. It'll ferment everything in there, and you can basically, the beauty about yogurt, it doesn't have to just be dairy. I believe you can do it out of Greek yogurt, like tofu yogurt and things like that. Soy. It's just got the bacteria in it, right? Which is really good for your stomach. Just like the fermented foods and all that, got the probiotics. Well, these bacteria, if you just keep cultivating them in things like the Instapot, from one cup of yogurt, you can keep making yogurt forever. You can do this with sourdough too, I forgot to mention, in the bread. You can just keep, once you get your cultivation of the, I forgot what they call it basically. It's like a starter. But once you get your starter of your yogurt, you can just keep making yogurt forever. You just keep adding either almond milk to it or milk, cream, whatever you're doing. And same thing with the kefir. You just keep going on and on and on and on. And it's proliferating. It's just like crazy. You don't have to do shit. So something definitely to look into is making your own yogurt. And there is a way to automate it. Next on the list is kombucha. I've got a friend who makes it for me right now, but it's very simple as well. And it's the same thing like the yogurt. It just keeps going on and on. It's basically like a fungus, I believe what it is. I remember my mom using a fishbowl because you get more surface space. And you basically, once it ferments, you pour all the juice out, you add water, and you take that a piece of that fungus and you just stick it right on top. It's like, looks kind of like a mushroom. And you will get kombucha for the rest of your life. It just keeps getting bigger. But you'll have to be throwing the mushroom piece, the fungus, away, because or give it away to friends. It just keeps going and going, and that stuff is really healthy for you. And the stuff you guys are buying in the store is probably like 80% water. Once you taste the real stuff, you'll see the difference. So kombucha is another one that could also turn into a business that I think that it's totally possible. Recreational alcohol. Now some stuff's pretty simple. I guess I haven't made it myself, but I come from Russian heritage, and I believe they call it Kvas. Sounds like leave it to the Russians to put a K in front of a V. I think it's Kvas. Making it difficult, but yeah, they basically just ferment fruit juice, I think, with a little bit of bread, kind of like pruno, with some honey and stuff in it, and it's very mild in alcohol. But you can, I've been looking into moonshines. I've been looking into making your own wines, your own fermented beers. One of my favorites, I think, and most simplest is the meads. That's the old Viking drink made out of honey. So yeah, there's all kinds of exciting stuff, especially brewing your own alcohol. Is it legal? I don't know. You'd have to check for yourself first. But I think I got a bug in my eye for those of you watching. But yeah, if something happens, it's maybe you're making fuel for something. Some accidentally spilt in your mouth. Whoops. Dehydration. I've done mushrooms. I've done spinach. There's all kinds of dehydrated things like strawberries. They get all spongy. Same like I think you could even do watermelon. It's like this piece of sponge, and you put it on your tongue, and it just evaporates. I've done beef jerky, which is a really good, I would say, homemade beef jerky for a business if you can get it down. Mine, I'll tell you guys a little trick. As you guys want to get the slices, you want to get London broil is what I use. The least amount of fat on your choices of meat. London broil for me is the perfect one. But the problem is that when you cut it with a knife, you don't get equal portions, so everything doesn't cook at the same rate. It doesn't dehydrate. Really nice to get yourself a food processor What I like to do too is get the meat semi-frozen, then it makes it a hell of a lot easier to cut. But yeah, I mean, you can do mushrooms, you can do all kinds of bananas, apples. Nice thing about dehydrators is that maybe when your apples just start to turn, you're like, oh man, I don't want them. For one, you can make applesauce, but with a dehydrator, you can actually dehydrate those things, and you can take them on the go, man. They make perfect snacks. Bananas actually turn super sugary. Perfect snacks for your kids, for yourself. You can make powdered potatoes. It's limitless. And remember what I was saying, when you go down to the aftermarket or the end of the season and dehydrate a shit ton of, say, tomatoes, like sun-dried tomatoes are pretty damn expensive. Going out and getting like some carrots and just whatever surplus you can get for super cheap and do mass dehydrating. Besides, which is next, is canning, making your own spaghetti sauces and stewed tomatoes and things like that. So you can have a whole smorgasbord of all kinds of different stuff in your pantry and be totally prepped for a time like this. The other one I would like to say is moringa. Get yourself some moringa powder. It doesn't go bad unless it gets wet. But I want to talk about like guerrilla gardening. If you're in a place where it can grow. You know, a lot of these parks, these recreational parks have sprinklers going off, these little hills and stuff like that. I would love to see if someone could sneak in a moringa tree and just plant it right in the, I mean, it could be downstream from where the sprinklers are. You can just kind of hide it and stuff it up into place. And then just go over there and pick its, you know, the seeds and the leaves, the fresh shoots. I think that would be really, really awesome. So I spoke to you about harvesting from farms and stuff, their leftovers, but I want to talk a little bit about foraging. And there's like stinging nettle is one of my favorite. It's very simple. If you don't know what it is, you're not sure if it's stinging nettle, just rub some on your forearm and it'll tell you real fast. But here's my recipe for stinging nettle. Literally, you can take a leaf off and rub it with your finger and eat it raw right there on the spot if you were ever in like a survival situation. The needles, take a look at it, pick yourself a leaf. The needles are actually facing towards the edge of the leaf, towards the pointed end. And if you just rub them very abruptly, you can actually get rid of the needles and actually just chew it. I did a video on TikTok or Instagram where I showed how I eat it there. But my trick is to boil it just like spinach, I believe, for like 2 minutes. Put it in water, empty out the water. You're going to want to put a little bit of butter in there and some lemon and salt and just eat it right off just like that, guys. It tastes good. A friend of mine doesn't even like spinach, and he ate the shit out of the stinging nettle. Stinging nettle is also great for dehydrating, as we just said, for a tea. It's supposed to be a lot of these herbs and stuff are supposedly, I don't know, like nettle is supposed to be really good for cancer. It's anti-cancer and very, very high in vitamin K, A, I think, and vitamin C. A lot of people buy it at stores. Literally, I think the grocery stores have stinging nettle tea, and we have it growing all over the fucking place. So yeah, foraging, there's California palm fans. That's what the Native Americans used to ground into flour. Acorns, same thing. Do your research though before you start doing things like that. Also, in neighborhoods, down where I live, I have a surplus of avocados, lemons, oranges. I've even found kiwis out here. That's why I love living out this place. Apples, apricots, pears. There's all kinds of stuff. I do recommend that you ask the homeowners before, even if it's hanging over the fence. But if you see a good sign of stuff dropping everywhere on the ground, people are more than happy for you to go pick it up. I've seen avocados. Not too many avocados, but I've seen oranges is galore. Tangerines, there's blood oranges out here. Just laying all over someone's front property, and you ask them, can I go pick I'll pick those all up if I can just pick a bunch of boxes, and they're like, hell yeah. So you guys go out there and forage not only the forest, but out there in the city as well. Places like Oregon, there was what is it, the fiddleback, the fiddle fern. You can eat the fresh shoots. There was raspberries, there's salmon berries, blackberries, all kinds of different berries out there. And there's mushrooms. Again, be very careful. There's chickens of the woods, chanterelles, morel mushrooms. And these things are located everywhere, guys. And you go out in the nature, there's blueberries, there's tons of stuff out there. And that's the show today, guys. I just kind of wanted to get you guys excited, not so down. But I do want to say that our systems have failed us, guys, and we got to start thinking outside the box. And I think what I want to do is I want to start getting a little more tactical with the show, as I said, and I think which I have been doing, is incorporating a little bit of survival tactics in there. Not like, hey Jed, let's go in the shed and shoot the shoot the zombies, nothing like that, but just some, preparedness. And I always use, like, my food, I've got like a 6-month supply of food. I always have a 6-month supply of food, and I have water. I have everything there, but I buy stuff that I already use, and I keep them in rotation, so there's no waste. But even beyond then, guys, there's with foraging and everything I spoke about today, start thinking in these ways that can help you. There's a lot more stuff I didn't even mention in there, and I'd love for you guys to comment and let me know what you're doing as far as food preparation and survival, and some tactics to get through this COVID-19 recession. And yeah, so you guys, it's been a pleasure. Check out the TikTok, check out the Instagram, check out the Facebook group, check out the YouTube channel. And you guys, as I always say, go out there and have yourself a near-life experience. Don't lose your muchness. Carry on the fire, human up, live it, love it, own it. Bone it, my friends.